All right, let's go ahead and take a look at alt text. This is alternative text. This is what lets a screen reader or describes an image, a shape, a button. It describes it to somebody who cannot see what is on the screen. So when you are thinking about alt text and adding images or shapes, you want to be able to describe that to somebody who is blind or has low vision. This includes the subject, the setting, the actions, the interactions, any other relevant information. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at missing alt text. So here is a page with a shape and a photo. So let's go ahead and look at our accessibility assistant. We already can see we are missing alt text for 2 items on this page, but we have that quick fix up here. So I'm going to go ahead, because we do have a shape on here, click on quick fix. And it just asked me to confirm that those shapes are decorative. If I have a lot of shapes on here, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this shape one more time so we can check out all these shapes together. Let's click review. So I have this now and it's showing all 3 shapes on there. I can click select all and then I can confirm that they are decorative, and this is great for anybody who uses backgrounds or creates backgrounds using a lot of different shapes for decoration. So I can just go ahead and click approve selected, and it is now marked all of those at the same time as decorative and leaving me with one missing alt text. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. As you can see, when I clicked on the alt text box, it highlighted the box we are on of this image. So there are different ways you can describe this image. And again, remember that you want to describe the image or the object and the context to somebody who is blind or low vision that may not be able to see it. So you can generate a description. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. And it generated a description, a person in a lab coat working on a computer, which pretty close, and we're going to leave it for that today. It does say AI generated content may be incorrect, and I have seen it be incorrect, so make sure you're always double checking. But I also want to let you know you can mark it as decorative. When creating alt text, you want to follow some best practices. Be concise. Describe only the essential information or the function of the image. Is it important that we know they have a green shirt on? Maybe, but maybe not. You only have ideally 100 characters. So you want to stay as close to that 100, 120 characters as you can. So sometimes leaving those descriptive words out that really do not matter in the context of the photo, it is okay. You want to describe the purpose of the photo as well, not just the content. And don't waste your words by starting with image of or picture of. We're going to assume, and a screen reader is as well, that it is an image or a picture of. And for any images that are decorative, which means they have no context whatsoever to your slide, mark them as decorative. We don't need to waste that time and that effort for you and for a screen reader to listen to something that really doesn't matter and can confuse the person listening to your screens being read. So for complex visuals, those charts and the infographics and tables, summarize the key takeaway in the alt text. Again, you only have around 100 characters, not words. That's about 15 to 20. So you want to do the key takeaway, that key context in the alt text, and then provide the rest in notes. Next up is creating meaningful hyperlinks. We want to give screen readers and readers of your slides visible context, letting them know the destination of the link and not the URL of the link. So some bad URL inaccessible links are ones that say click here with a raw URL. I'm going to go ahead and read this as a screen reader would read it to you, and let you kind of get an idea of why it is important to link to the destination and share that information instead of the URL. If I were a screen reader, I would sound like this. click here, https://www.unmc.edu/publicess/. I'm going to stop there because as you have just listened, it's not that fun to listen to. But if I go ahead and I take that link and I link it to a page title with visible context, a screen reader would read it as UNMC College of Public Health, Office of Teaching and Learning. It's a lot easier to listen to, and it also lets them know the destination instead of wondering, because I don't know, there are some crazy links out there that might take you to places unknown. Next up is fonts and contrast. I can see there is a reading order issue. I'm going to let it go for right now since I think we shared reading order quite a few times and talk about the fonts and the contrast. So for contrast, you want to make sure you're using high contrast colors. Black on white is perfect. Dark colors on white is perfect. White on black is perfect. So really thinking about the contrast. But you know what? We're over here in our accessibility tool. So let's look at inspect without color and see what we can see. So there it is getting even harder to see some of these. And if you imagine looking at these very light colors at a very bad projector at a conference, you probably wouldn't be able to see them at all. Well, that is a problem. So you really want to make sure, like I said, using high contrast colors. I'm going to turn this off. You can see these are very low contrast colors to begin with, and fancy fonts. So you want to make sure you're using a sans serif font because they are easier to read for most people. You also want to make sure that you have a large font. Starting out around between 18 to 20 is your best. Do not go below 16 and do not really go above 24 on your actual page. Otherwise it gets really big. And then you want to make sure that your title is also pretty big. Right now our title is at 44. So around that point value is probably where you want to be for titles. Okay, moving on. Here is just one with the correct size of everything. The different without color contrast, the 18, 20, and 24 max. Just a quick overview. Next up, we want to talk about poor chart contrast. Again, I see missing alt text is over here. We'll get into that in just a minute. But I wanted to start with some of this poor contrast. Again, this is a very light yellow. You can maybe see it now. You might not. You really want to make sure your color contrast is high on charts. Over here, it might get blended together. You also want to make sure that if you have a tool, you can go ahead and not just use color. You could use stripes behind a color for this one. Maybe leave this one solid. This one could be diagonals. So there are also other ways to give contrast on your PowerPoints or on your tables. That's what I meant to say there. Here is a slide with a lot brighter color on it. It does have alt text behind it. So I'm going to look at the alt text so you can see here is a very basic alt text for a chart. Now, if I was using this chart and they had needed to have more information than this, which I probably do because it should mention what the numbers are based on the respondents, and then I would add that here, but if it doesn't fit, then I would add it, let me see, here in the notes so that I'd have that information. Or you can always smush your chart down, do a text or a placeholder box, and then add it to your screen, and then talk about that as well. I'm going to undo that really quick. Okay, moving on to tables. So in tables, you need to keep header rows and header columns so that a screen reader can read that information and it knows the direction it needs to go in. So again, tables are a bit different. They also require alt text behind them. So you would have to give an overview of what is in this table. this table, and something I want to talk about with table design is if you were to come to table design and look at all of the different tables right here, these are already built with those accessibility header and column rows. So you wouldn't have to mark them. You can see them up here: header row, column row, total row. Banded columns and banded rows are your colors. You can choose to have those marked or not. But if I were to switch to this one, as you can see, header row and first column stayed up there. I can take first column off to where it just reads the header row. I'm going to go ahead and find one that's just a little bit brighter and show you as well. This one has header row. One of these, header or column, need to be marked to make it accessible. Alt text needs to be added to make it accessible. Taking this table from PowerPoint to a PDF can also cause additional issues, which you will see inside the PDF video. Okay, so alt text is important. So here is a table with those headers filled out. As you can see, there's a header row, it's color red, and then a header or a column header. So it would read those in the correct order. It would read the criteria: fully met, partially met. It would read the row, then fully met, then partially met, then not met, and it would continue going through in that order because you gave it direction by clicking on those buttons in that table design. Next up, I want to talk about using lists. It is important that you use a list up here in your tools as opposed to creating your own list like this one here. If a screen reader was to read this list, it would read it as *.1, *.2, *.3, space, 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 .3a, space, 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 .3b, .4. Now, if you have it done correctly, where you have used your list tools up here with your bullets and numbering, it will read it like this. List 1 of 4.1, 2 of 4.2, 3 of 4.3. And the main point of that is if you can imagine not being able to see a screen and somebody just read *.1, *.2, *.3, it does not sound like a list. However, if they read 1 of 4.1, 2 of 4.2, 3 of 4.3, it reads like a list. All right, next up is SmartArt. SmartArt is not accessible on its own. You need to add alt text to it. So you can see we're missing alt text. However, when we click on the alt text, it is adding alt text for the whole image. So you will need to come up with 1 to 2 sentences that describe this SmartArt. Again, if your SmartArt is too complicated to describe here, add some overall context and some notes either to the side or down in the notes section. When you look at the reading panel, and I just want to show you this so you can see how it reads this page, it reads the title, and then it will read this content placeholder with the SmartArt. As you can see, I'm still missing alt text there. I have a little icon, and so I would need to click and add my text. I'll see if I can mark it as decorative, and then I will go ahead and save it, and it removed it from there, but I don't really want it that, so I think we need to mark something in there. All right, so I added some text in there, and then I'll click save, and then I've taken away the warning sign, and I have it that. So as you can see, it is not going to read anything like 1 in a circle with an arrow, 2 in a circle with an arrow. It just reads the context that you give it. All right, next is video and audio. You want to make sure that you are adding captions and giving transcripts of your video and audio. There are some instances where it is required for you to add All right. So I want to talk a little bit, since we are done on all of the pieces and parts, is on converting a PowerPoint to a PDF. Oftentimes faculty share their PowerPoints as PDFs with their students so they can take notes, and you don't have to worry about your students making changes or using them at a different time. To do this, I really suggest you first run your accessibility checker. If you've gone all the way through this accessibility assistant and we've done perfect, and you're going to click on show all your slides, you're going to imagine all of these are check marks, because remember, we didn't do all of ours, but you'll want to make sure that they're all check marked up and ready to go. You can come in and then go fix it. So for example, I'm just going to go mark all these as decorative as we move through really quick. I have some reading order on slides. My section name is missing here, so it would be PowerPoint accessibility. That is your title and your section, so I renamed it, approved that edit, and then I can go and check my reading order. So I'm going to go verify these really quick. All right, now that I've fixed all of the issues over here in our accessibility checker, I also want to do one more final thing. And you can do this first if you would like. I want to go to add a title and author information. So I'm going to go to my file, and then I'm going to go to properties, and I'll show you on a PC in just a moment. And once I click properties, since I am on my Mac, I'm going to come to summary. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a title here, add my name and my company. This will often be blank when you get here if you have not already added anything. One of the important pieces for adding this is this gives your PowerPoint a title. Even though you have a title page, that is not titling the whole document. It also lets you know and others know that you're the author and where you work. Now you may be wondering how to save your PowerPoint to an accessible PDF on Mac. So there are many different ways, or at least a few different pathways. On a Mac, your main way is to go to File, Save As, and then Export, and then select PDF. But the most important to think about is to click on this Best for Electronic Distribution and Accessibility. That is what tags your PDF and all the things we put into the PowerPoint so that it can go and be accessible. Now, a caveat to that is it may not be 100% accessible once you get it into a PDF format, and then you need to go double check it. But this gets you further along than if you did not save it as Best for Electronic Distribution. If you are on a PC, you are going to select, when you go to save it, you're going to export it or save as to a PDF. Once you get to that screen, don't click save right away. Click on options, and with that options screen, you're going to want to make sure that you have enable accessibility and reflow with tagged Adobe PDF and some of these other ones, depending on if you added them. It doesn't hurt to have them all checked, but you really want to make sure that is checked, and then click OK and save, and it will tag your PDF. Thanks everyone, and happy PowerPoint building with accessibility in mind.